Hi everyone, this video is going to be a review of our writing linear equations unit that we just finished. So a lot of this should be really familiar since we just finished it, but I did want to take some time to go over the major types of problems that you will see on the final from this unit. So we're going to be focused again on writing equations of lines in slope-intercept form. Now I know we all remember this by now, we know it by heart. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And we know that m is our slope and the b is the y-intercept. So the first problem type that we had to know how to do is how to write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form if you're given the slope and the y-intercept. Right? So they're going to give you that m and the b. So these were kind of the most basic type problems that we had. So an example question could look like this. It'll say write in slope-intercept form. Again, our goal is y equals mx plus b. We're going to write the equation of the line that has a slope of -4. So we know slope is m. And the y-intercept is -6, which is our b. So all we're going to do is plug in -4 for the m and -6 for the b. So I'm going to have y equals -4. I know slope goes with the x. And now since our y-intercept is negative, I'm going to have a -6. So here we just have to be really careful that we have those signs and that we pick the correct choice here. So I'm looking for a -4x. Looks like choice D is going to be it. Y equals -4x minus 6. So that's going to be choice D. The second type of problem we did was when we were given the graph of the line. So for example, the question is to write in slope-intercept form. That's always going to be the form we're looking for. We want the equation of the line that's shown in the graph below. So now I need two things. I need m and I need a b. And once I get those two things from the graph, then I can write my equation. So slope, I know I'm going to use my rise over run definition of slope. So I have to pick two good points on the line. So it looks like the origin in this case is actually a nice point. And then this one, 2, 1. So rise over run, if I'm starting here at the origin, it looks like I go up 1. So my rise is 1. My run, I'm going to go over 2, so I have a run of 2. Remember, slope is always a fraction. Now my b, remember that's going to be where our line crosses the y-axis. So here's my y-axis. And in this case, it just so happens that our line crosses at the point 0, 0. Right? So our y-coordinate there is b. So our b is 0. So now I'm going to plug this into our slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So I get y equals, our slope is 1/2. I attach the x. Now, we could put a plus 0, but remember that's just the same as y equals 1/2 x. So looking at my answer choices, that's actually A right here. All right. Next type of problem. Now they start involving a little bit more work. So problem type 3 is when we're given the slope of the line and a point on the line. So here they're going to give us the m, but we're going to have to do some work to find out the b. So now we're writing in slope-intercept form the equation of the line that passes through this point and has a slope of 1/2. So I know my slope is m. So we're writing y equals mx plus b. So remember, these are the problems where we're going to plug in that slope and the point, and we're going to solve for the value of b. So I'm going to label my point x comma y. And now I'm going to substitute my values into y equals mx plus b. So in this case, my y is 6. The m I take from here, that was my slope, so m is 1/2. X is a -4, and then I'm going to copy my plus b. So we're going to use our solving skills. 6 equals 1/2 times a -4. Please be careful here and use those calculators so we don't get the wrong signs. 1/2 times a -4 is a -2, plus b. Now, if I want to isolate b, get it all by itself, since this is a negative 2, I'm going to add 2 to both sides. And I get b equals 8. So now I have my m here. I have my b here. So I'm going to plug into y equals mx plus b. So my equation is y equals 1/2 x. Since this is a positive 8, it's going to be plus 8. So if I look here, that's going to be choice D. All right, next. Our next problem type is if we're given 2 points on the line. So now I'm not given the m and I'm not given the b. I have to solve for both. So for this type of problem, we need to use our slope formula, which is going to be m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, this is the formula you'll always see me using, but remember, you could also do y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. Those will always get you the same result. So in number 4, now in this this question, they only want us to find the slope. We're not actually finding an equation here. So we're just going to use our slope formula to find the slope. So the first thing I'm going to do is label my points, x1 and y1. And these, I'm going to put it below here, x2 and y2. So each ordered pair has an x and a y. I just call the first point 1 and the second point 2. So the first thing I need to do is use my slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and I'm going to substitute in. So y2 I said was negative 11, minus y1, so minus 5, over x2 is 6, minus, now here I have to be careful, x1 is a negative 2, so I have 6 minus a negative 2. And now I'm going to simplify. Negative 11 minus 5 is a negative 16. Here we have to remember that subtracting a negative, that's just going to be the same as adding. So I'm going to have 8, and my slope is negative 2. Now this problem becomes exactly like what we did in the problem above. I know a slope, and now I'm going to pick a point. I typically pick my first one. And now I'm going to use that information to solve for our b value. So I start with y equals mx plus b. I'm going to plug in the y value, which is 5. My m, we found out, is negative 2. X is also negative 2 in this case. And then I'm going to copy plus b. Oh, you know what? I went too far here. I forgot my directions said just to find the slope. So when we had m equals negative 2, that was our slope. And that problem's actually done. Hopefully you caught that before I did. Okay, now we're going to use this to actually write the equation of the line. Okay, so the deal here is, again, to write the equation, I need an m and a b. So in this case, I'm going to use the slope formula to find my m. That's my first step. So I'm going to label my points x1 and y1 and x2 and y2. So we're going to substitute y2 is a negative 1, minus y1 is 5. On the bottom I have x2, which is 2, minus, here's that minus a negative again. So if I'm careful, I use my calculator. Negative 1 minus 5 is a negative 6. 2 minus a negative 2 is a positive 4. And if I reduce, my slope is a negative 3 over 2. Now, this problem does want me to find the equation, so in this case, I do have to solve for b. So let's walk through this process. Again, I just like to pick my first point. It doesn't matter. Either way will get you the correct answer. So my y is 5. M in this case is negative 3 over 2. My x is a negative 2. And then I copy plus b. And we're going to solve for that b. So here, 5 just stays 5. Negative 3 over 2 times negative 2 is going to give me a positive 3. plus b. And now to get b by itself, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. And I get b is equal to 2. So now I have both the parts that I need. I have an m and I have a b, so I'm going to plug it in. Y equals negative 3 over 2x, and this is a positive 2, so plus 2. I go and find my answer. Be careful of my signs here. I have negative 3 over 2x plus 2, so the answer is B. All right, now the last part of this chapter had to do with parallel and perpendicular lines. Important thing to remember here is that parallel lines have the same slope and perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. Okay, so the first type of question you might see is one that looks like this. It says to determine whether the following lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So I know I need to look at the slopes. I don't care about anything else except the slopes if I'm trying to decide this. So I see that the first slope is 2 over 3. The slope of my second line is negative 2 over 3. Now, looking at those two numbers, I know the lines can't be parallel because those slopes are not exactly the same. One's positive and one's negative. So they can't be parallel, so I'm going to eliminate that. Now, perpendicular, we said, is opposite reciprocal. So when I look at this, these are opposites. One's positive and one's negative. But the reciprocal part, this fraction hasn't been flipped. So actually, those can't be perpendicular either. That means these are neither parallel nor perpendicular. All right, so then the very last problem now was working with parallel and perpendicular lines to be able to come up with the equation of a new line. So in this case, we're writing in slope-intercept form the equation of the line that passes through this point. So I see here they're giving me an x and a y value, and it's perpendicular to this line. Now, again, when I see perpendicular, I'm thinking opposite reciprocal slope. So I know I need to come up with a slope here. So my slope, let's see, the slope of my original line is 1 over 3. If I need the opposite reciprocal, I'm going to take this positive slope, and mine needs to be negative. Then I need to flip that fraction, so 1 over 3 becomes 3 over 1. So my slope is negative 3. Now, here's where I want us to be a little smart about how we look at our choices. When I do this, the first thing I'm going to do is look at the slope of the line in each choice and determine if it's the same for parallel lines or opposite reciprocal for perpendicular lines. And I'm going to eliminate any equations that don't have the correct slope. So in other words, here we said our slope of our new line needs to be negative 3. So I'm going to eliminate any of these choices that don't have a slope of negative 3. Here the slope of this line is 3, so that can't be my answer. Here the slope is 1/3. That can't be the answer either. So it means one of these two must be the answer. Again, that just helps us eliminate some choices. So now we're going to go ahead and solve for our b. So y equals mx plus b. My y value is 5. Slope is negative 3. My x happens to be negative 3 as well. And now I have plus b. So I have 5 equals 9 plus b. If I subtract 9 from both sides, I get b equals a negative 4. So now I have my m and my b. So my equation is y equals negative 3x minus 4, which is choice D. Okay, so that's a quick recap of that last unit. And like the other units, you have some practice multiple choice that you can work on to make sure you've got these concepts.